Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Football-Oranje, your home of Dutch football. We know how much you've enjoyed the Wonderkids videos we've done over the years, so how about we bring one back here for the top 10 Wonderkids to watch in 2025. I'm here, I'm Michael Statham. Mike Belly's here, the founder of Football-Oranje, to talk about lots of teenage talents who have been really impressing us over the last year or so and who are breaking through. So we've had a bit of a rule, if you like, about this one. With in the past about not having made their breakthrough, but I think it's nice to have a general overview of all of those young teenage talents coming through. So any player that's kind of between 16 and 19 years old is available here to be mentioned. We'll mention as many names as we can throughout the show, so we don't leave people out. So we know there's always that comment that will say, "What about this guy? What about this one?" So we'll try and mention as many as we can throughout the show, and we will mention those who have had their big breakthrough as well. So there'll be some obvious names here, as well as names we think you may never have heard of. So Mike and I have been busy at work researching this, watching videos, watching football over the years, Dutch Eredivisie, but also speaking to scouts and people that are really in the know with, on the pulse with talents coming through at the Dutch clubs. A lot of these players, I think I'll say first, Mike, are actually at Dutch clubs. And in the past, we talked about being at English clubs. Very different now. A lot of them based in the Netherlands. So if you think you'll enjoy this, do give it a like and subscribe to Football-Oranje if you're new. As we know that the Wonderkids videos are popular. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's start with our number one Dutch talent. And that's not to say that this is the best one. We'll go the furthest, as later on we'll bring up an old list that we did and we'll have a bit of a laugh at how badly that went. But Anthony Malambo is the first player we're going to talk about, Mike. Speak to me about this fine-old Wonderkid.
Yeah, I feel like Malambo is a player that we've been tracking, watching for years now. And this season seems to be finally his year that he's actually burst into the first team. You could say that out of all the players in the Eredivisie, he's probably the one that's broken through the most this season. Is he's getting voted for, team of the season so far, and no wonder, because I think out of Feyenoord's midfield, I think he's been probably the most impressive for me. Even in the Champions League, he's been impressive, scoring 3 goals so far in the Champions League. He's sort of like an attacking midfielder that Netherlands kind of needs. It's great to see him break through, because I think that he's a player that we'll be looking at for years to come as a Netherlands international, and one that's probably going to go on to one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's already at a massive club at Feyenoord, but if you're looking at the next step, he's going to be one of the ones that goes to the real top, because he is that good. He's excellent dribbler, scores goals, great positioning, just has it all for it to be that number 10 for a huge club. So yeah, I'm very excited about Malambo and what he's shown this season so far.
You say about him being number 10 there, and I think he's really stood out in that position. But he's someone I think that will kind of retreat for the midfield as he gets older. See him becoming like a number 8, maybe then a number 6 as he gets into his late 20s, 30s. I think he's full of talent, though, technical ability, bursting at the seams with it. He's very strong in his duels. As we said, already into the first team. I loved his performance against Benfica in the Champions League for Feyenoord. His Oranje call-up should come up soon, hopefully. But I love it the way that he can chip in with the goals, usually from outside the box. He's a great dribbler. I think he's just full of ability. I don't think he's one of those that will kind of fall by the wayside as he gets older. I mean, I'm saying that now, and we're going to look at this later, and famous last words, but I think he's just that good. I think he's that talented. So where does he go next from here, Mike? Before we're going to go on to the next talent, what do you see him doing next?
Well, as you said, the Netherlands call-up needs to come soon, but he's got some tough competition ahead of him with Reinders, kind of in that position, Koop Meiners, but he's the next one, definitely. I think his ceiling is higher than Quentin Timbers. I think I can see Malambo going to, I can see him fitting in easily a Premier League club at top level. I think he's going to go there. I think for him, what he needs to do is have a full season at Feyenoord in person. And I don't want to see him leave too early. I think he's only 19 now. I think have another full season at Feyenoord, break into the Netherlands national team, cement himself as one of the best players in the Eredivisie, then look at where to go next, because this is his first full season for Feyenoord. It's been great so far, but there's a lot more to come. And I think that after a year or two, we'll see him getting linked with some of the biggest clubs in the world, because right now it's not happening. I don't think he's been linked just yet. So he's still kind of under the radar for those top clubs. I'm sure they're scouting him. I'm sure they're all watching him. The press just hasn't linked it yet. But I think that'll come next season if he stays at Feyenoord.
Okay, we'll go on to the next player. What's really interesting about these talents as well, I said about them being in the Netherlands, but also they seem interested in staying in the Netherlands as well, because they know that their progression is going to be much better within their country and that they're not as keen to just leave straight away nowadays, it feels like. And here's another one, Joel Harto. He is doing, again, big moves at Ajax. So he is 18. I will get that information on screen in a second. He's 18, broke through to the Ajax first team already. He did so at 16, didn't he? And he's one of the youngest captains ever for Ajax to have had. Tell us about him, Mike.
Yeah, I think that Hato, a lot of people will probably have watched him in this list more than anyone else because he's played more. He's 89 appearances already for Ajax. He's already got 5 caps for the Netherlands, and he's only 18 years old. I think that for the past couple of years, we've been talking about him because he's just that good, and he's been breaking into Ajax side at 16, 17, cementing himself as a leader at the back, so calm on the ball. Position-wise, defensively is immense. He can play left back, he can play centre back. I'm sure even if you popped him into midfield, he could do a job there as well. He's just that good on the ball. I think that with the Netherlands recently, I think we've seen that defenders are what they seem to be producing left, right, and centre at the moment. And Hato seems to be the next one off the block that's that world-class defender that's following in the footsteps of the likes of Van Dijk, Nathan Ake. Very exciting future ahead. He's already been linked constantly with Arsenal. So you can tell the sort of caliber club that's looking at him. And I hope that he stays at Ajax for another couple of years because I can see him being, the captain of Ajax for a few years before he then moves on to the bigger side because there's no rush for him. I don't see why he would rush to leave. The fans love him. He's cemented his place there. He's already in the national team. He can be a captain for a couple of years before then getting that move. So I hope he stays at Ajax for a couple of years. But he probably out of all the players on this list is already, at a level where you could say that he's near a move to a massive, massive club who are already watching him. And I think he's the only one on the list that's actually made his Netherlands debut. So he's not really a wonder kid anymore. He's there. He's doing it. He's in the Netherlands national team. He's undroppable for Ajax. He's doing everything that you could ask from him at the moment. And it's great to see. I just wish that, we could say this about, an attacking midfielder, a winger or a striker, but it seems to be another centre back or left back that's the main one on the list. And
wow,
it's good to see.
Yeah, don't speak too soon, Mark. We have got some different players on this list, and what will excite Adania fans too is that there are a couple of strikers. Woo! Hopefully, we can look forward to, but more on that a little later. I'll tell you a player that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I know you are too, Mike, but having seen more clips of him, I've seen him come through this season. I really like Case Smith, so I'm going to bring up some info about him now. And he had like one game, didn't he, for the RZ where he like kind of really made his name and scored a goal and got an assist against Fenerbahce in the Europa League. Case Smith then is here he is, and he's a kind of like an all-round midfielder, isn't he? I don't want to use too many names, but it's sort of like Steven Gerrard, a bit of a midfield engine, if you like. But can also play in that attacking midfield, winger positions as well as central midfield. I think in his early days, like Malambo, we probably play a bit further forward and retreat as he gets a little older. But there's lots to like about Case Smith. He hasn't had many games yet for RZ, so he will be one of those big next names coming through. I think that's what this list is like, by the way. We start with a couple of names you would have really heard of, and as you go further on, you may not have heard of these players. So I think he'll be one of those next ones you'll see in the Eredivisie. He likes the long pass. He's good in his tackles. He likes to bring the ball forward, progressive dribbles. But also, I think, I think he's got a future maybe as a central midfielder. And he's had that one season so far with Young RZ. Hopefully, at the end of this season, he's got more appearances for the first team. And then the season after, this guy becomes a regular for RZ Alkmaar and goes from there. How long will he stay in the Netherlands? We'll have to find out. Seeing a few players come through in the past, like Turncoat Miners, but maybe he's one of those next ones in that generation of RZ players that won the Youth Champions League a while ago, and those just below that are coming through. RZ's academy is fantastic, and a bit of a statement here, but I think it's probably one of the best ones. Is it the best one in the Netherlands now? We talk about Ajax for a long time. Feyenoord have had some come through, Sparta, Rotterdam in the past. But ours at the minute have got a glut coming through. Some are 20 years old, by the way, so we won't mention them here too much. But Valterhus, Jaden Ilwaz-Oduro, the goalkeeper, both 20, fantastic youth players. But here's another one who's 18. What do you think about Smith?
Yeah, it's a player that he's been around for years. Even though he's only 18, I've been talking about Smith for years on the website, because for AZ's under 19s, he always seems to be above the age level that he's at. So like within the Netherlands, it's quite rigid. You're basically stuck with that age group that you're with, and you sometimes feel like some players need to be catapulted to the next level, but some don't do that. But Smith is one that has. He's always been a year above where he should be in terms of the youth ranks. And when AZ won the youth league, Smith was one of the key players. And there's even footage a couple of years back, some people might remember it, that there was some youth indoor football tournament that AZ won, and Smith was the one that was getting all the online. There was loads of videos of the goals he was scoring, because I think there was one where, if you've played indoor five-a-side football, you know that if you smack it off the wall, I think there's one where he smacked it off the wall and then went round, the player got the ball and then smashed into the net. And some of the goals that he scored for AZ since then, they're all sort of, as you've mentioned, Steven Gerrard, he loves to score from long range. He has that in him where he can score from his own half. He can belt the ball in from 30 yards into the top corner. And the goal he scored against Fenerbahce as well, it showcased, he's got some real dribbling talent to him as well. I think he's one that I'm really excited to watch for the rest of the season, because I think he has now broken into that AZ side where he's going to be undroppable for the second half of the season. And it's exciting to see him finally make his breakthrough, because he's been waiting for that for a couple of years. He could have easily done it at 16, 17, but they've been patient with him. They're giving it to him now. And yeah, I think that Keith Smith's a name that you'll be hearing a lot of for the rest of the season.
Brilliant. Right, that's 3 done out of 10 so far. I want to just bring up now, Mike, before we go on to our next ones, a list that we came up with. Predominantly my fault, I think, but I did run it by you, I'm sure, before I did this video on Football-Oranje's YouTube channel. Back in 2020-2021 season, it was the start of that, and there were 10 names we mentioned. Just going to reel them off, and people can make their own decisions about how far these guys have come. So we've got Sancho Hansen, Mitchell Bakker, Jeremy Frimpong, Kenzo Houdmine, he's in the Derby now, Ian van der Heide, some of you going, don't even know where he plays now, De Graafschap in the 2nd division, Kajana Herva, Nacho Univar, Motabuni, who plays in Qatar, Joshua Zirkzee, he's not doing great, is he? But he's at Man United. And Ryan Gravenberg. Hey, we'll take that as a win. That didn't include players that had already made their breakthrough. So Mahir Tardan wasn't on there even. And he's at Arkansas Volvik anyway. And really embarrassingly, we put the Timber brothers as special mentions. So what do you say about talents? It's always a mixed bag. We know some stuff about them, and scouts will know some stuff about them, but it is up to the players and the clubs to make that future happen. And also our eyes too. Our eyes just poor and can't see the talent from the rest. So yeah, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think that you always see these crop up as well from the ones that big websites do from 10 years ago, when they picked the next generation. 442 always do it, the Guardian, stuff like that, and people always laugh at them because they're always predicting these teams of the future, and then you've never heard of any of the players that are on it. And yeah, you're basing it off of players that are coming through, making their debuts, doing a lot for Netherlands under 19s and the youth sides. And yeah, it seems that some just can't make that step up from the under 19s, under 21s to the actual first team football. A couple of them are right there. Ravenberg and Zirkzee, he might not be doing well at Man United, but that's sometimes not down to him. It's down to tactics of the team. Man United themselves are just an absolute mess at the moment. So if Zirkzee went back to Italy and started scoring again, you could say that he's a success.
Yeah.
So it's hard to to predict because there's players that in youth football can score 100 goals for under 19s. Like look at Brian Brobby, always prolific for under 17s, under 19s, gets the Ajax first team and has good moments and bad moments. So yeah, it's with youth football, you never know. But I'm pretty confident that some of the ones that were named today will go on to have great careers. And I've got a list of honourable mentions as well that I'm pretty sure might come back to haunt us in 5 years, being like, oh, well, he's absolute superstar, best player in the world, and you've only mentioned him as an honourable mention. But yeah, it's tough to always come up with these names and predict what they're going to do. Even scouts can get it wrong. So
they can, yeah, they can. So we'll come back to this in 5 years then. We're a bit more wrinkly and a bit grey maybe, and we're judging ourselves again. Yeah, the honourable mentions will come later. We've got a long list of other players. Let's get on with some other ones then that we think are big talents. And the Netherlands need strikers. So we've got 2 now that are strikers in our top 10. And the next one I'll talk about is another Feyenoord player, and it is Zeppy Redmond. Zeppy Redmond has already scored 2 goals for Feyenoord's first team. He got them in a cup game. He looked a problem. He looked a threat. I think the thing with Feyenoord strikers coming through is you always have to be a little bit kind of careful, don't you? Like they're not just doing another Mitchell de Vrede or like a Anas Ashabar. So Redmond is a bit risky with that. I don't know quite how good he is yet. But he is strong, a little bit like a Brian Brobby, if you like. He did score that goal against MVV and looked like he'd had that, strong turn in him to score that goal. But what have you made of him, Mike, in the limited games you may well have seen of him?
Yeah, I think he's not a player that I would have picked as at the start of the season, being like, oh, he's going to make his breakthrough for Feyenoord. But I think that the injuries that they've had to strikers has helped him come through, and he's done well for the under-21s. For Feyenoord. So yeah, he's a striker. He can also play on the wing. He does look strong. He does look like he can finish in the box, and it's great for him that he's been able to get a chance. He's scored twice in the cup, but he's also made a handful of Eredivisie appearances as well. So I think he's going to be one that for the rest of the season he'll be. If he comes off the bench because Jimenez is still there, Ueda is still there, so he's still going to be third, fourth choice striker at Feyenoord, but he keeps scoring for under 21s. He might make his breakthrough for Netherlands under 21s. He might get a chance there because he's under 19s at the moment. And yeah, it's just whether he can take that chance in Eredivisie. And it might be a case of if Feyenoord do sign a couple of strikers in the summer, that he gets loaned out and has a full season somewhere else. But promising start for him. I wouldn't have picked him to make his Feyenoord debut this season, but he has. He's doing well. And yeah, as we're all waiting for that striker to come through, Redmond seems to be the closest to the Eredivisie at the moment for a young Dutch striker. Because if you look at elsewhere, we all got excited about Rijkoff at Ajax, and so far he's done absolutely nothing. So yeah, Redmond seems to be the one that we can pinpoint as being, fingers crossed, makes that big breakthrough.
Then after that, we're kind of searching a bit deeper, looking at younger age groups to try and find another striker. And one that's got the Dutch press a bit excited, and one that I admit I had to look up on how to pronounce his name out of this list, is a PSV forward, only 16 next on our list. And I can't say I've got a lot of information on him, to be fair, so do forgive us that. But one that's got people excited is Sami Buhudana. If I bring him up, Buhudana is a 16-year-old striker at PSV, and I've got to say he wasn't very prolific at Oranje under 17 level, but he has scored some goals below that. But yeah, he's got people excited. I think he can also play in the wing, but he's predominantly a centre forward. What do you make of Buhudana, Mike?
I think his name has always been put out as a wonder kid by the Dutch press, and you look at his goal scoring level for under 18s, 19s, it might not be outstanding, but yeah, he seems to always be the one that's mentioned in the Netherlands as one to watch make his big breakthrough. He is only 16. He's already made his professional debut for young PSV. So in that sense, he is exciting. He played quite a lot in the youth league. I know PSV haven't had a great season in that competition. But yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on in the next couple of years, as he seemed to be bigged up by scouts, Dutch press, as being one that is going to make a big breakthrough. The only worry that I have is what we've seen in recent years with dual nationalities. So Boateng can represent Morocco, and I feel like in the past few years there has been a definite switch from players that seem to be coming for the youth of the Netherlands for years, seem to be making that switch to Morocco. So if Boateng does become, a top talent, it's going to be down to the KNVB convincing that his future is with the Netherlands, because I think the national team have had a real issue in recent years of being able to convince talents that they should be representing the Netherlands rather than Morocco. A lot more have switched in recent years. Some of them, you could say that Netherlands haven't really missed out. But yeah, there's a few that you could say that could have probably been breaking into Netherlands. Mazraoui was always one. Hakim Ziyech being the big one. He was there for the Netherlands to take, and they sort of fumbled him. So yeah, but Dan, it could be the next one that makes that switch from Netherlands to Morocco, and it could be one that could really hurt because he's in a position that Netherlands really need a superstar at, and he could be that one.
We'll have to find out. You're still very, very young, of course, to make those decisions, and in the future, we'll know. Let's go into the second half of our list, and let's go into a typical Ajax kind of youth product, and unfortunately is yet again in the wrong position. Another defender, but a good one at that. Made a couple of appearances already this season for Ajax. Start of the campaign, has now not played any of Serie appearances since. I don't know quite why that is. Maybe it's to protect him at a young age. But DC Onsa is about to turn 19, and he quite likes being in the style of Jan Vertonghen. He's talked about that himself. He's tall, strong, wins headers. Farioli bigs him up, says he likes his work ethic. Hopefully we see him come back into the first team of Ajax soon, or if not, he's got a loan out. Some of these players are due a loan, I think, coming up next. He's one of those, if not getting another chance in the first team.
Yeah, I think that the fact that he's already made a couple of appearances for Ajax shows that they love him. He's loved by the Dutch press as well. He's always named as one of the big players to make a breakthrough in the next couple of years. He is another centre-back, but he's a Dutch centre-back that they seem to be producing quite a lot of. Is big, strong, good on the ball, calm head, really good positionally wise. I think he's, as you say, in a mould of Vertonghen more than a mould of De Ligt. I think they're different players. He's not going to be the next Matthijs De Ligt. But yeah, he's one that has a big future ahead of him. And I think that he's going to be patient, whether it is a loan next season or a handful of appearances off the bench. He's only made 2 so far. He's been sort of young Ajax this year, but I think next year he's going to have to be playing regular Eredivisie football, whether that's at Ajax or a loan elsewhere.
Okay. Next one is another one that we have probably heard of here, unless your knowledge of Dutch football isn't that strong. And I think that is Isaac Babadi. Babadi's just been around the cusp of the first team of PSV for so long, but he's still yet to make his breakthrough properly. He's just, he must be calling out for a loan move. He's not getting his chance in the first team at PSV. Peter Bosz has made that decision very clear as well. He's not the only PSV player on the cusp, by the way. There'll be another one in a minute we'll talk about. But full of talent. I like the way that he kind of jinks around in midfield and he dribbles around players. Like, that is one of his key characteristics as a footballer. It's close control. He has made quite a few appearances in the first team, but a lot of it off the bench. The loan move's got to come, hasn't it? He was rumoured with NEC Nijmegen already this transfer window. Might he leave permanently? I think these are the questions about him. Like, how talented is he, Mike? I know you've liked him for a long time, but if he's not been given his chance, is it because there are doubts on him, or does he just need to play football? What is it?
I love Babadi. I think he's excellent. I think that it's frustrating me how little game time he's getting for the PSV first team. I think that last season he got quite a lot of appearances, played well. I think there was some criticism of him in the PSV support for some of the appearances, but then there was other appearances where he was looking really good. And I think that the problem is that when he drops down to the under 21s, he's the best player on the pitch every single time, and it's like he's too good for that level, but he's not getting a chance at PSV, so he needs that loan move. I think that I've seen in the Dutch press that every single club outside the top 4 in Eredivisie basically wants him this month. So I think he's got the choice of clubs. I think that I've seen Heerenveen linked. I've seen NSC Nijmegen. I think that because he has a link with NSA, that's the most obvious move. I've seen they're also close to bringing in Brian Linson, which is a totally different matter. But they might bring in a few players for that attacking position, so it might suit him going there, like a club that he knows, an area that he knows, where he can get that constant game time for the rest of the season, because he is too good for under 21 level, but he needs to start showing it in Eredivisie. And I think so far this season, he's only made like 60 minutes worth of appearances for PSV, which really frustrates me, because there's games where PSV are beating a team 5-0 and Peter Bosch isn't bringing on the talents that he's got on the bench. Which people could say, he's right in doing that because, you need to prove yourself. But how can players prove themselves if they're not getting any game time in the first team? It's the same with a player that we're going to be talking about soon. They need the minutes on the pitch, and Babadi's ceiling is higher than Hoos-Till's. That's a fact. Hoos-Till is not going to have the career that Babadi potentially could have, but Hoos-Till is the one that's constantly getting picked ahead of him in the PSV ranks. I think that the issue for Babadi is the fact that if you look at that PSV midfield, you've got Sabari, Till, the options, Schouten, Veerman. I think that the club would have thought some of these players would have moved on by now. Veerman especially, I think that in the summer, I think PSV officials would have been like, okay, this is the summer where we're going to make some money from Veerman and he's going to leave. But because, it didn't go well from he thought it would for the Netherlands, he didn't get that big move. And that stunted Babadi's growth.
You can't have that conveyor belt of Dutch football then, can you? From the likes of him coming through. He's been stunted in his growth because of that. It's absolutely the case. You'd shift one or two and then he would come in.
Yeah, I think he can play on the wing as well, but the problem is also on the wing, you've got Noah Lang and you've got Irving Lozano ahead of him. And then they've just got rid of Lozano and they've brought in another player to replace him. Yeah. So it's not as if they're like, okay, Lozano's gone, okay, Babadi, you're going to get a chance, but you're going to get a chance as like a backup on the left wing, which he's more than capable of doing. But they've brought in another player. And yeah, for me, I think he just needs to get that loan move. He's openly spoken about it himself that he wants to leave on loan. Mm-hmm. So PSV need to grant him that because he's too good for sitting on the bench.
Yeah, he is. Well, we've got 3 more players in this list to talk about in depth, but let's do some special mentions first. Our list is very long. Well, I made a list and Mike made a list. So let's see if this time we can cover those bases. So in 5 years, we don't look really silly that we didn't even think about these players. And we've actually got some that you never know. But the potential doesn't quite seem quite as high. Perhaps you're not quite as excited about them. But it's nice to have some of the players as well from other clubs, because a lot of so far has been from, say, the top 4 clubs in the Netherlands. Here we go then. So we got Elijah Dijkstra from AZ Alkmaar, who's a wing back. Yuri Herkens, who's a goalkeeper for Sparta Prague. It's an interesting shout there. Got Shane Klauvert. Yes, he is related. Barcelona. Got Jaden Adai, who still is at AZ Alkmaar trying to break through. And we've got Valerius Nak Breda, but he's been helped back by a long injury. Bloxile is a centre-back at Groningen. There's Banzuzi, who plays in Belgium, midfielder who just missed out on our list here. Silvano Vos, who's at AC Milan now, still a talent. Jasper Hartog is another one at Ajax. You got Rijkoff, who are still guest counts at Ajax. Stein Bultman, he's a defender for Heracles Almelo. Jaden Slory, he's on loan at Dordrecht from Feyenoord. He's a winger. PSV, you've got Kuhn, Van der Riet, Van den Heuvel, who are all making moves there in the academy. And a big one is about Feyenoord is Thijs Krijfeldt, who is injured now. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we didn't put him on the list, because he's been held back a little bit by those big injuries. So who have you got, Mike? You've got more, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a long list there. We'll start at Ajax. Konadu, the striker, seems to be breaking through a young Ajax at the moment. Up front, AZ, you've got Jo van den Baan, one of the standouts for their Youth League team this season. Enoch Masteras, the defender, who constantly gets mentioned by AZ fans as being one for the future. Ratterink, who is currently on loan at Bayer Leverkusen, midfielder. For PSV, you've got Jo van den Berg. So you've got Jo van den Ban and you've got Jo van den Berg. So if both of them make it in the future, that's not going to be confusing. You've got Jaden de Guzman, son of de Guzman, who obviously had a great career for the Netherlands. Another son, you've got Lucas Vinegar of Hesselink, of FC Twente, son of Jan Vinegar of Hesselink, striker. Yannick Eduardo, who big talent for RB Leipzig, who's currently on loan at the Graafschap. Hattenboer as a midfielder at Excelsior, who is being linked with a big move to Eredivisie clubs this month. Also at Feyenoord, you've got Nijenhuis and Uargi, two very talented attacking midfielder strikers. Mustafa, who plays at Mainz, and one who would have made this list possibly if he didn't spend probably most of last season and most of this season out injured, is Shaquille Van Persie, son of Robin Van Persie, who probably was on the cusp of, narrowly making the bench for the first team before he got a serious injury last season. Seemed to be scoring a lot of goals every single time the Feyenoord under-19s played. It seemed to be Van Persie was the one that was scoring. But yeah, it seems that he's come into long-term injuries that have stunted his growth this season. So hopefully he gets back to being a fit player, because if he does, then yeah, he could be one for the future for that striker position. But yeah, that's the long list that I've got. Again, I'm sure there's probably names that we've missed out that people will be screaming in the comments, how did you miss out X, Y, and Z? And yeah, it's one of these conversations that you could have and go on forever, because there could be a list of names that are playing right now at Ajax under 17s that maybe we've just not seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I've had people comment with 15-year-olds I've never heard of. I've had people comment with players that aren't Dutch. How did you miss out this one? He's not Dutch. Yeah. So it is hard, and I think people appreciate that if you're still listening at this point of the video course. And yeah, Scouts have picked up some of these names that we've got here. Like, we've picked the names that have been mentioned the most, if you like.
Yeah, and there's ones that we could mention constantly that we've just not got time for. There's not a case that we don't think these players are as talented. Like the ones that are mentioned at Feyenoord, like Uargi, Kruijveld, it's just the fact that they're so young. These are players are 16, and yes, they're playing for the under-19s, but you don't know, just because you're playing for the under-19s doesn't mean you're going to make that big breakthrough. How you're, because you're so young, you don't know how the body shape. Uargi as well is another one that he used to play for Morocco. So he was in Morocco under-16 international before he then switched to Netherlands. So as much as he's talented and we're excited for him for the Netherlands, he might not play for the Netherlands ever. So yeah, you got to think about that as well, where their allegiances are going to lie. And even you got players like Gabriel Missahoy as well for Granada, who made a move from Ajax, gets a bit of game time at Granada, but hasn't made his massive breakthrough just yet.
Yeah, no, true. We've got a few more on this list anyway, because people were screaming out these three players' names now. And they're actually a bit of a spoiler. They're from each of the top three clubs. Let's start with one from PSV. Like Babadi as well, is breaking through and needs that kind of that low move or that chance in the first team that Peter Bosch at the moment isn't giving him. It's Tigo Lond. Now, Lond is a midfielder. He has bags of talent. Like a couple of these players in this list, like has been compared to Frankie de Jong. I think there's a lot of comparisons to de Jong because people have loved seeing him come through, but he has got that intelligence like de Jong. He dribbles the ball a lot. He puts his body, in to try and win tackles. I think fans have liked his attitudes. But yeah, PSV fans have been calling out for him now to get a chance in the first team. He's been given kind of little bits, if you like, but not very much. He still hasn't even hit double figures yet in terms of appearance of PSV as we speak now. He likes winning, collecting the ball, driving forward with it. He's even scored a couple of goals from outside the area. Yeah, we'll have to see what kind of happens to him next. But he could be, like, we're at number 8 in our list here, sort of mentioning some players at the end. And there's no kind of order to this, if you like. So he could be one of the biggest ones on this entire list. Like, he could really be that impressive. Talk to us about Lund.
Yeah, I think that every single time I've seen Lund play, I've been impressed because just the way that he is on the ball, his dribbling factor. He is a sort of Frank de Jong type of player. He likes to move forward with it, can get the ball back with a tackle, likes to throw himself about, but can score goals. And I think that we all know that Frankie de Jong
Not know if he's goal scoring.
He isn't a goal scorer. He doesn't like to shoot, but Tigerland likes to shoot. So, yeah, I think that the ceiling for him is very high. And yeah, again, like Babadia, we're just frustrated that PSV's midfield is so stacked that he's not getting as many chances as he could have if he was at another club. Because he actually signed him from Heerenveen a couple of years ago. So if he was still at Heerenveen now, he'd be the best player in their side by far, probably breaking through. But yeah, it's an exciting player to have. It's on the cusp of the first team. We just need to hope that next season, if the likes of Schouten, Sagari, Bierman all go, PSV won't actively just dip into the transfer market. They'll go, okay, we've got a player on our hands that can make the step up with Tigerland, who, let's face it, Dutch clubs need the money. So Tigerland's one from Roan Academy who could go on to make them 20, 30 million if you give him that chance and he reaches his potential, because he is that good. And what we've seen from him at young PSV and Netherlands under-19s, under-18s is he's got a huge future ahead of him, and we just need to start seeing him play regularly in Eredivisie.
Absolutely. And another one who's coming up next is... Oh, I've lost my notes now. Oh, yes. A right back at Feyenoord, Rivaldo Reed. He was at Volendam for a long time before now, so he's only been with Feyenoord for like a year or so. What are your thoughts on him, Mike?
Yeah, I think that with Reed, like, he was making his debut for Volendam when he was, around 16. You're like, oh wow, this is a player in Feyenoord, moved very, very quickly to snap him up. And now they're seeing the benefit of that because he's in the first team. I think he's now sort of broken through. He's 9 appearances in their division now. Seems to be probably first choice right back now. And every single time they've played, I've seen Feyenoord fans saying how good he was.
He certainly wants to be first choice right back. He's spoken about that, and I think Feyenoord fans are up for that. They're like, yeah, you probably are the first choice because you are impressing us.
Yeah, and I think that he's impressing with not only his defensive capability, but he likes to get forward, and that's what you want from a modern fullback. Because Netherlands right now, you're sort of blessed to have Dumfries and Jeremy Frimpong for that position. But looking beyond that, you need sort of like a backup that can do both well. And I think Reed is that. He can do the defensive duties well, and he can go forward well. So it's an exciting player to be coming through. And you're looking at him being Feyenoord first choice right back from next season. And then, the ceiling's high of him breaking into that next choice of being the next Netherlands right back. So, yeah, I think that Reed is showing great things now that he's so regular for Feyenoord. And I can't wait to see him, what we see from him next when he is that undisputed first choice.
Brilliant. And the thing I like about him is he just loves sliding into a challenge.
Yeah.
You just keep an eye on that when you watch Reed play. The last one then is one that I think, not like a curved ball, but it has been mentioned a lot by scouts as having like that really high potential, but just don't know how it'll be given that this player is only 16. And that is Sean Sturr. He is a midfielder. And when you find like bits of him online, like he's very technical, another Frank de Jong with that intelligence and the dribbling. What do you know about him, Mike?
Well, he's already made his professional debut. He's now like a first choice for young Ajax in the second division. He's already made, I think it's already 12 appearances for them. And I think you're right. I think the scouts and the Dutch media are getting very excited about the fact that he is only 16 but already making his debut professionally, because he is that good. And technical wise, he is obviously going to get mentioned as the next Frankie de Jong because he's coming through. I actually know Frankie was Willem II product. Sean Sturr is an Ajax product, but every single time that young as Ajax have played recently, you see it on X, you see it on the forums that Ajax fans are very excited about the way he plays, his vision on the ball, the way he dribbles, the way he can pass, he scores goals. He seems to have everything that you need for a midfielder in the modern game. And the fact that he's only 16 shows that he will be making his big breakthrough soon. You hope that the KNVB Cup is, you know, a platform for maybe youngsters to get a chance. And I think in the next couple of years we'll see Stewart making a handful of appearances for the first team, especially in the summer. I think in the summer when it's pre-season, you'll see him around the first team because he's going to be training with them. He's going to be making his debuts in friendlies. Even maybe before the end of the season, he might be one of the players that the last couple of games of the season, usually you see clubs giving chances to the biggest talents. And I think that Stewart is one that you could see making his debut for Ajax in the Eredivisie before the end of the season. And he's another midfielder to get very, very excited about.
He is indeed, and that kind of rounds off our list. And you look at all these players in our sort of top 10, if you like, all play for Dutch clubs, albeit the top 4, which is great. But also there are some players that we've mentioned as well that play outside of that, and probably ones we've forgotten. This will quickly come dated, of course, because he's about to turn 17. A lot of the players here seem to have birthdays in January, but this list hopefully will cover a lot of different positions. People get excited about these players. And some will make it through. Like in this list, inevitably, we've just mentioned some of probably the biggest talents in the world in the next 10 years, say. We'll have to see. We'll have to see with that one. We saw 5 years ago, Gravenberch is now one of those biggest players. People were loving seeing play at Liverpool. Mike, that was good fun. I hope people enjoyed that, listening to it at home. Do give it a like, of course, if you enjoyed this long list of Dutch talents coming through. Subscribe to Football-Oranje if this is new. You don't know we do things like this. I think just something we can shout out for now is that if you keep your eyes peeled on Football-Oranje over the next month or two, there's going to be some exciting Football-Oranje merch being released so you can get your hands on. So you can look forward to that. Yeah, anything else new, Mike? 2025 is our first thing we've released podcast-wise in the new year.
Yeah, I think that these sort of lists are always exciting to do because I think when you've got a country like the Netherlands who relies so much on youth products, you've always got names that get thrown about as being the next big thing. But I think recently you've seen other countries have, you know, players break through. You know, Spain recently with Yamal, like we've been crying out for who's going to be the next Netherlands Wonderkid that's just going to absolutely break onto the scene, be like a 16, 17-year-old superstar. Hopefully I've mentioned a few, maybe in honourable mentions there that could be that name in the next couple of years. And yeah, hopefully we're not getting together in 5 years' time, looking back on this list and covering our eyes going, oh, we got that wrong. But yeah, I'm excited to watch all these players in the second half of the season. You know, the Eredivisie's come back soon. We've given you some players to keep an eye on. Some of them won't play, but you know, you've got like some Lambo, Hato, Smith. Hopefully Babade when he gets that loan move. And yeah, you've given you some for the future as well with Stur and Budana, the ones that if you want to watch, you're gonna have to be watching, you know, PSV's under 19 side, Ajax's under 21 side. But yeah, it's an exciting list and it's always a good thing to do for the site to get you excited about some of the Dutch talents coming through.
Thank you, Mike. If you want to get involved in the comments then, let us know who you're excited to see or who we forgot. And we'll give you much more Dutch football content as the year goes on, obviously on the website, on social media, and on YouTube too. So yeah, that's up from us now. See you soon.